Thank you everyone for coming to the coordinator meeting and training. This is Courtney Arntzen, who is a community chaplain, who is sponsored through MIC and is here to do a situation, and she can explain what she's doing. It's about secondary trauma. Take it over, Courtney.
Thanks so much, BJ. Just for clarification purposes, I was fiscally sponsored by MIC for a couple years. I'm now not fiscally sponsored by them, but I still work with them, and that's why I'm not fiscally sponsored by them anymore, because it was any relationships.
Gotcha. Forget what I said.
But I've been working with MIC even longer than that. So my name is Courtney. And somebody, I don't know if even the person is here. You the one who was at the MIC fundraiser?
Or you read the newsletter.
Or you read the newsletter? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so is it Michelle? Wonderful. Thank you very, very, very much. I really, really appreciate that. That is how people find me. Is random little tidbits like that. Somebody hears about me and tells somebody else, and I get an invitation like this. So I'm really grateful that that happened. I want to start tonight by asking this question. You can think about it, and then I'd love a couple people. I'd love it if you all shared, but I won't make you all share. What about your faith or your belief system compels you to do this work with Family Promise? And there's not a right answer. And there's not a right faith or belief system. And you may not even have one.
You're called to minister to the least of these.
Okay, and what's your name?
Lorraine.
Lorraine? Okay, great, thank you.
People are just so needy. Actually, this is an easy way to help people who are needy. Because you sign up for a shift and you show up and you work and you leave. Maybe not for all of you, but for me.
Thank you. Well, what do you think about the world that compels you to do this work?
I think we need it more about each other.
Thank you.
We've also been given so much that we need to share with others.
Wonderful.
You might repeat some of those.
Okay, so we had, because we're called in some faith traditions to minister to the least of these. That is a core belief. Because we have so much to share, that it's an overflow of all that we've received. We're called to care for other people, or you use the language of call. I didn't mean to put that in there, but that to care for others. That is what propels me to do this work. Great.
And there's lots of needs.
And there's lots of needs.
Wow.
Wonderful. I know Nancy. Now I know Michelle. I know Rebecca. I know PJ and Lorraine and
Jane.
And then who do we have on?
We have Judy and I think Sue Fury's on.
Okay, and I know Sue. I don't know if I know Judy. I can't.
It's not Judy's first bounce.
Oh.
Yeah. I know it's kind of like I was like, oh, we know each other. But we're on several months. Yeah.
What did you notice about some of the comments that we made about why you do this? Or like, what did you notice about that conversation?
Well, it has to do about caring.
Has to do about caring. Any other observations?
It seems especially compelling in this particular moment.
Okay.
Somebody's got to do
Hmm. Well, I thank you for sharing that. I want to share a little bit about what my faith or what my belief system propels me to do the work that I do. I used to be a pastor, and every once in a while I get to preach. And so this last Sunday I was in Hamilton, and this is one of dozens of passages in one of my holy books, sacred texts. And it's talking about Jesus, and it says, "Now on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee." And that language of traveling and being on the way and not being anywhere in particular, in my faith tradition, I learned that Jesus is on his way a lot of the time. And the work that I do now allows me to intersect with people as I'm on my way and as other people are on their way. And I find those encounters, if they're once or if they're many, many times, I believe that those encounters matter. And that's what propels me to do this work. So today we're going to talk about what happens when we do this work somewhat. And in front of you, in front of some of you, there are some papers that are turned upside down. And they are quotes about trauma, and they are different. So you can either do it with somebody, or maybe we'll just have, why don't we just do it as a group? And we'll just go around and have you each read the quote. And then once we've heard them all, we will discuss them, okay? So Nancy, do you want to go ahead and start with your quote? And you two have the same quote, so you can arm wrestle who's gonna read the quote for us, or you could read it together.
Peter Levine, trauma is about loss of connection to ourselves, to our bodies, to our families, and to others, and to the world around us.
Thank you.
Want to do this in unison?
No, you can.
Do it really loud.
Bessel van der Kolk.
Oh, nice.
Trauma is when your biology gets assaulted in such a way that you might not be able to reset yourself.
Oh,
Thank you.
Carrie Doring. Trauma is the biopsychospiritual response to overwhelming life events.
Resman Medican. Trauma is the body's protective response to an event or a series of events that it perceives as potentially dangerous. And this is from my grandmother's hands.
Which is a book. It's a hard and good book to read. Okay. So what do you notice about those? What are some common denominators that you've heard through those quotes? Or things that stood out to you about your quote?
I hear some of them as very physical, bodily assaults, biological assaults.
yeah.
And I hear others as other overwhelming situations,
Yeah.
events.
Yes, thank you. What else did you hear?
Loss of connection. So, I mean, what we talked about before being connection, this is loss of connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, trauma comes from a dangerous situation.
It can come from a dangerous situation. It comes from at least a perceived dangerous situation by the people who encountered it. Trauma is not prescriptive. You can't say that one incident is traumatic for everybody who experienced it, which is a little mind-shattering sometimes to think that many people can experience, for example, an earthquake. And for some people, that will become a traumatic event and they will have a trauma response. For other people, they will not. And there's no real, you can't see, you can't be like, oh, you and not you, or you and not you. And what you said about the biological, physical Sometimes they are, and some of these authors speak specifically about physical traumas. But the response and the traumatic response includes your body. You can't think your way out of a traumatic response. And it is that loss of connection, that loss of control, that loss of agency that often becomes the defining moment. A danger is perceived and I can't do anything about it. And so we move into our fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all of those kind of reactions. And then whether or not we move through that is the trauma that stays with us. So today I just wanted to have an understanding of trauma. It's not great to clearly define it because it's being researched so much right now, that definitions are from every which way. So I thought hearing a couple people's definitions might be helpful to give you an idea. But in order to talk about secondary trauma, I felt like it was important to start with primary trauma and an understanding of that. Because secondary trauma is the results from indirect exposure to trauma. And why are we talking about that here? So the idea is that you're not the person who experienced the whatever it was. However, you might be coming alongside someone and hearing their story, which may include trauma. In helping professions and caregiving professions and volunteer places, this kind of secondary trauma or vicarious trauma is an occupational hazard, a volunteering hazard. Because the stories you hear or the people that you encounter oftentimes have experienced or are currently experiencing trauma, and you're in direct proximity to that, even if they don't tell you what their trauma might be, if they're in a trauma response, you're absorbing some of that into your own self. It's the byproduct of being an empathetic, compassionate, caregiving person in the kind of situations that you're finding yourself. And secondary trauma, like primary trauma, can have health, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual complications. It can affect and impact every area of your life. In the work and the volunteer work that you do, another layer of that is called compassion fatigue, where you can become, I mean, it's a pretty good description. You can't hear another story because it feels so hard, and your empathy is full. You have tanked out. And so your compassion is exhausted. And so that can be another byproduct of this kind of volunteer work. Welcome, welcome. We're so glad you're here. So the piece that I want to also help you understand is that in trauma, the pathway of recovery from trauma, the first step is stabilization and safety. And the work that you do, volunteering at Family Promise, is helping with that first step in recovering from trauma. You're helping with stabilization, you're helping with an understanding of safety, even if you only have one conversation with an individual or a family. It doesn't even if they don't move into permanent housing. The roles that you find yourself in have the ability to give them back a little bit of their control and agency, and to be a compassionate ear who hears their story, which can help them start to move toward feeling safe in the world again. Even if they come to drop-in hours and you never see them again. By listening, you give them the power to tell their story, to be heard, and to move toward stabilization and safety. And when you do come alongside families and come alongside them in ways where they are moved into housing, that's a really tangible safety and stabilization. It's concrete. And that does not mean that everything is better and that their traumatic experiences are over or that they have fully recovered, but like you have helped pave the way to those first steps of recovery. Okay. Just a couple little notes that I was thinking of as I was prepping for today is that knowing that loss of agency is a real feeling and beyond a feeling, like they experience it in their whole body and their whole mind and their whole spirit. Like they may not feel safe or you may not feel safe. So when you are engaging with any of these families or individuals, you have the power to help them feel safe by asking permission. I know faith communities, we love to touch each other. We love to give hugs. We love to be in close proximity to each other. But by asking permission for a handshake, for a squeeze before you assume, that gives them a little bit of their agency and a little bit of their power, and they have the right to say no. And that helps them feel safe and secure, a little more stable. Other things are, and I'm sure you've talked about this, or I don't know what you've talked about, so I'm just gonna say them in case you haven't. Knowing where doors are and having a line of sight for a door helps somebody feel safe. If they know how they can get out of this space, and they don't feel trapped by a wall, or in a corner where they can't see a way out or see who's coming in, it's a simple thing that we don't always think about that can help them feel more safe and secure. And then I know in a lot of this work, we know that some things could go so much faster if we could just do it for them. We could just help them along a little bit more, and to recognize that in that, we disempower them, and we again take away a little bit of their belief in themselves that they have agency. They may not do. People don't always do what I want them to do. I think, right? This is how I feel about my children. If you would just do it the way I told you to do it, life would go so much better. But I don't have that power, even when I think I did. And then the piece of secondary trauma that I want to touch on is that you may not know that you're being impacted. And so one of the most important practices for you to discover about yourself is after you do office hours, and you encounter a couple of people, or after, if you're accompanying a family, to know how you're gonna take care of yourself after that meeting, even if it's a totally simple paperwork meeting, everybody ended and with smiles. As we absorb experiences of trauma, they just build up in us. And if we don't have active ways of moving them through our body, they will also impact us. Is that clear? And I know this sounds really, it sounds wooey. I still think it sounds wooey. But the best thing you can do to care for yourself is come back to your body and notice your body. Notice where you are in a place. Notice how much space you take up. Notice who's in the room. Notice what your feet feel like, or what it feels like in your car after, and if you've met someone. Notice what you can hear. Notice what you can smell. Those are some of the practices that can return you to your body, and to your location. Because those are the two things that tend to become, that's what becomes more difficult as trauma builds up. Knowing your place in a space and knowing the space that you are in. Does that make sense? It's both like knowing this, but then also becoming aware of the surroundings. So we started late. Do we still have a couple minutes? Okay, good. So we're gonna do this. This is a practice. PJ and Rebecca have done this with me before, and we're just gonna do this. And so I'm gonna invite you to put your writing utensils down. You're not gonna have to write anything. You can sit however you want to feel, however you want to sit. And then if you're comfortable, you can close or soften your eyes. And the invitation is to first take a breath and notice what it feels like as you inhale and then as you exhale. And then notice, are there 3 sounds that you can hear in this space? And you may only be able to identify 1 or 2, and that's fine. And then I'm going to invite you to open up your eyes and look around the room and notice 3 colors. And you will want to notice a whole bunch of other things, but just notice where 3 colors might show up. And then move your body in 3 different ways on purpose. It can be raising and lowering your toes, it can be stretching your hands, relaxing your jaw, moving your head. You can do big movements, but there's no need to do big movements. Just move your body in 3 ways on purpose. And then take another deep breath. And that practice does 2 things. It puts you in the room, right? I noticed the color of these flowers, which I wouldn't have even been able to tell you that there were flowers or cushions even over here. So you notice the location that you're in, and it gives you something to notice about your body. We move through the world with so little intention. We sit and we don't think about how we're sitting. I get in bed at night and I get all curled up, and unless I think on purpose, I'm like, why? This is not a comfortable position to be laying in, and yet there's something about it that brings some comfort, and so I have to like physically think about like stretching out my arms again. We just move through the world without thinking about how we move. So that's a way to do that. The beauty of that practice is that, yes, I just led us all in that together. You can do that. I have done that. Sitting across from another human being, having a conversation with them. If I feel in my body that my stomach is starting to clench, that my shoulders are starting to rise, my jaw is starting to get tight, and I'm trying to continue to listen to whatever somebody may be telling me, I can just scan them and be like, okay, if I got a sponge and belly and be on her nerves. And I can move my toes and continue to look at her. And I can listen to her voice if she were talking to you. And it's a way to be present with yourself while being present with someone else. And Rebecca and PJ can tell you this, I do this far more extensively when I have a lot more time and we have a lot more spaciousness. This is a way that I can help you or any of the organizations or other spaces that you may find yourself. I do this work regularly. So I offer these sorts of trainings more extensively to nonprofits. I provide opportunities for work and for employees or a group of volunteers to process their own secondary trauma where we would maybe have a conversation that's not being recorded. Or I also can come in and do trainings with volunteer groups or church groups. And other spaces that you might find me is like Nancy has called on me when a family that she's been working with has needed a memorial. I do that because a lot of my colleagues in town are doing their congregations memorials or their faith communities memorials. And so this is a service that I can offer to people who don't have a faith community. And I can show up however the people need me to show up. I've been doing memorials at the Poverello for the last couple of years for our unhoused neighbors who died while guests at the pub. So those are some of the ways that I can help you. Some of the ways that you can help me is there's one, you can invite me to any group that you may be a part of. Two, if you are part of a faith community or you are part of a book club or you are part of a women's circle or you are part of another nonprofit in town, you can invite me to those spaces or tell people to help me, like you, right? You saw it on you saw it on the MIC website, you went to my website, you reached out to Rebecca, she reached out to me, and that's why I'm here. And then I'm always looking for, because the work that I do isn't supported necessarily by the individuals that I come alongside, I'm always looking for people to support this work financially as well. And some of you in this room do that as well. And so I am very, very grateful. I can go into a lot of faith communities and preach if that is something that's needed in your faith community, or lead an adult education hour. And I'm happy to tell you more about my own background within the faith community if that's helpful for you. Anything like that. Thank you very much for inviting me to this space tonight. I value the work that you do. It may feel simple, but it is not simple for so many other people. Not everybody can go and sit and be willing to hear stories of others. They don't have the capacity to, because of their own life. And so the work that you do and the work that you coordinate others doing is really, really important. And I want to ensure that you all can keep doing that work and that your volunteers can keep doing that work. So if there's any way that I can come alongside and support you in that, I would value that. The best way that you can get in touch with me is the QR code, because like I said, I have business cards, but the writing is so tiny. It's a little embarrassing. As we wrap up here, do you have any questions that are like on the top of your head tonight that you'd like me to touch on? Or if there's something that you want to hold on to as you leave this place, I would love to hear that feedback as well.
I just wanted to share that one of the things with one of the families with that we're working with stabilization. One of the things that she said that kind of hit me here was that it took her, she appreciated having the support to have time to learn how to be housed. She said, it took a long time to learn what to do when I was unhoused. And it's taking me time to learn how to be housed. And so having that space and having someone there to listen and not, and just help. So I think, I mean, I thought about that one with what you were saying, because she says, people think we have it all together just because we have a place to live, but we don't.
Right, and that's like the just neighbors for.
Yeah,
just
that's what I'm
neighbors.
talking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, that's gonna allow people to have a more extended time with them, which really is. Like, that will help their stabilization so much, because they're not just being left to their own devices, and there's still many steps of recovery from trauma, which being unhoused for many people is a traumatic event. Not for everybody, but for many people is. And so that coming alongside them for an extended period of time is really assisting them and feeling that stabilization and that safety. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? And feel free to reach out to me. I will pull out some of my cards, and if you do, then you're welcome to take them. It was the crunch of the MIC fundraiser that I was feeling, and then I just got them printed, and then I saw them and I was like, I can probably do these. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.